beer. So let's say you're a young lad. You may be in high school. You may be in college. Somebody comes up and says, it's time. It's time for you to have beer. You were young. Now it's time to become a man. So you take that beer. Take a sip. And you like it. And you keep drinking. Are you a drunkard? Are you going to hell? Should you never consume alcohol? Could you keep drinking alcohol? Should you get drunk? Where is the truth in all of this? Jesus hung out with drunkards after all. He consumed wine, turned water into wine. Does that mean that we are to fully embrace and consume alcohol? Where are the limits? Are there limits? Now, let's turn to our handy-dandy catechism. Something that we should all have readily available. Let's go to paragraph 2290. The teaching of the Catholic Church states, the virtue of temperance disposes us to avoid every kind of excess. The abuse of food, alcohol, tobacco, or medicine. Those incur grave guilt who, by drunkenness or a love of speed, endanger their own or others' safety on the road, at sea, or in the air. So, sounds like we can consume alcohol, but intemperance. Well, what does that look like? What does that mean, intemperance? Does that mean drunkenness, but in a safe area? Have your phone taken away with good people, friends that won't take advantage of you? Is that temperance? Is temperance to only have a sip and to never drink more than one beer for the whole night? We're going to go all Protestant and prohibition and never even look at beer. Devil's juice. Now pull out your handy-dandy Bible, which we of course have on us, and turn to Paul's letter to Ephesians. Ephesians 5:18. And do not get drunk on wine, which lies debauchery, but be filled with the Spirit. Okay, all right, so no drunkenness. No getting drunk. Okay. Do not get drunk on wine which lies debauchery. Well, is the wine debauchery? Or is it the drunkenness of the wine? Well, we just read from the catechism, temperance and alcohol. So catechism permits us to consume alcohol. Paul's telling us don't get drunk on wine. Okay, moving on. Now let's go to Paul's letter to the Corinthians, in which he says, in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 10, nor thieves, nor the greedy, nor drunkards, nor slanderers, nor robbers will inherit the kingdom of God. Okay, definitely don't get drunk. Don't get drunk, people. Don't get drunk. Paul says it right here. Drunkards will not inherit the kingdom of God. Okay. Clarify. Addictions are a whole nother asterisk of level of culpability, but don't get drunk. Moving on. Now we go to the best part. What could be the best part? The best part, Jesus. Duh. So we're going to go to Book of John, chapter 1. No, just kidding, chapter 2. The wedding at Cana. What a great classic example of alcohol in the Bible. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the wedding. And when the wine ran short, okay, so Jesus is at a wedding where there is wine. So if there's alcohol around, you can be around it. Jesus was around it. Supposed to live like Jesus. And Jesus said to her, "Woman, how does your concern affect me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars there for Jewish ceremonial washings, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. 6 jars containing 20 to 30 gallons each. Jesus said, "Fill these jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Draw some out now and take it to the head waiter." So they took it. And when the head waiter tasted the water that had become wine, without knowing where it came from, although the servants who had drawn the water knew, the head waiter called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves good wine first, and then when people have drunk freely, an inferior one, but you have kept the good wine until now." So Jesus hung out with people drinking. He took water and he made it into wine, and he made a ton of wine. And he was really good at it, and it tasted really good. So what can we take from all that? Well, one we can take from it is Jesus is a good brewmaster. 2, we can take from it, alcohol tastes good. My wife might disagree, but I think it tastes pretty good. And so did Jesus' friends. Now, what else can we take from this? Don't get drunk. So, temperance, alcohol. Drink alcohol. Alcohol tastes good. Alcohol can be a good thing. God made alcohol. But we should not abuse a good thing and turn that good thing into something bad. What happens when we become drunk? We lose our rationality, which God gave us. When we lose our rationality, we put ourselves in a near occasion of sin. This near occasion of sin because when we are drunk without a rationality, we can act in more sinful ways. Intoxication leads into debauchery. A lot of times sexual sins occur when one is inebriated. We're maybe not a nice drunk. We say nasty things to other people when we're drunk. These are sins that are occurring that wouldn't occur if we had been sober, if we had not taken this gift and twisted it like the devil does with all sins. What is lust? It's a yearning for something beautiful, and then you twist it into something very dark. Desiring God's beauty on earth with the opposite sex is good. It's a good thing. Adam and Eve played naked in the garden and it was good. Satan takes that and twists it into something very dark and evil. when we grasp and we grab at something and use it. Alcohol is very similar. This hard cider, it's delicious. God surrounds us with such beauty. He makes apples and apple trees. And north of Grand Rapids in Sparta, Michigan is one of the largest apple production areas of our country. And it's just rolling fields of beautiful apple orchards. God is good. That is good. Apples taste good. Cider tastes good. It is good. And it is normal for me to desire what is good, because what is it a sign of? It's a sign of God's goodness. It's a foreshadowing, a taste of what's to come, heaven. But what happens when I don't have temperance and I distort that and I abuse the gift that God has given to me? I grasp, I overconsume, I'm gluttonous, and I don't appreciate what God has given. Well, now it's something very different. It's twisted and it's dark and it's sinful. It's drunkenness. When we look to the sin of lust, is there beauty in the human being? And that is good. And then Satan twists that and turns it into lust. One final note. On alcohol, on beer, hard cider, drunkenness. It's by a guy who's, decently smart, decently important. Name was St. Thomas Aquinas. Maybe you've heard of him. If not, I highly suggest you look him up. Very, very smart man. Doctor of the church. Very important. And when he walks through the theology of sin and drunkenness, and how it separates us from God, he reaches the conclusion, if we are to purposely put ourselves in a place of serious sin, that is a mortal sin. Because when we sin, we separate ourselves from God. So if we purposely separate ourselves from God, that is a mortal sin. And that's what overconsumption of alcohol does. When we become drunk, we separate ourselves from God, because when we are drunk, we are in the near occasion of sin because of our lack of reason that God gave us. So if we were to purposely remove ourselves from that reason and place ourselves in a position where we aren't able to rationally decide what is good and what is bad, what is of God and what is of Satan, we're purposely putting ourselves away from Him. And that's a mortal sin. It's very serious. Just something to think about. Until next time, enjoy God's gifts.